catalyst and go to that catalyst.
Let me bring in former Governor Frank Keating. He's the president of the American Bankers Association. Governor, thank you for joining us. How are volatile oil prices affecting banks in oil-rich states? I was speaking to an investment manager this week, or last week rather, and he said the knock-on effect of these weak commodities prices are going to be the undoing, a continuation of the undoing of this market.
Well, good morning, Maria. And I've got to say, after listening to the conversation, we ought to return to the discussion of fantasy football. It's more of a science. And,
yeah. But it's a happier subject, isn't it?
That much happier subject. But, you know, for those of us from energy states, for those of us with energy backgrounds, obviously the oil patch is suffering and suffering pretty severely. Things will get worse. The reality is all this bad news is the result of the good news of American genius and technology. Right now, the conversation is, and I was in Oklahoma last weekend, we're the 5th largest energy producer. The question is, what happens when the nuclear deal is done and Iran puts 1 million or 2 million barrels, maybe they already are, but at any rate, when that formal increase in oil in the markets hits the markets. But also the question is, what's the breaking point for the Russians, the Venezuelans, and the Iranians?
How about the Saudis?
Because unlike the United States, we own it ourselves, generally, oil and gas. Over there, the government does, and they use it to prop themselves up. So a lot of questions in the marketplace, a lot of questions in the foreign policy and internal security fields.
We got a jobs number out this Friday. If it's a bad number, maybe the Fed doesn't raise rates in September. Many people now are not expecting the Fed to raise in September. But I'm wondering if the market views that as a real negative because it indicates the economy is even weaker than they thought.
Well, I think the banks have done well. They are highly capitalized. They're very healthy. Even community banks, with all the suffering they're receiving as a result of 14,000 pages of proposed and final Dodd-Frank rules. But eventually, if Main Street starts to slowly strangle, the banks will as well. But right now, I'm just hoping a lot of this volatility is, in fact, that just volatility will get our act together. And the U.S. economy, I mean, it was almost Reagan-esque, if those numbers are correct, of this past quarter. But a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Frank, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Maria.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Coming up.